Good evening. I'd like to call the 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the regular meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Jim Eck. Here. Dwight Wirtz.
Here.
Larry Trent.
Here.
Jill Griffin.
Here.
Donna Ware.
Here.
Brian Campbell.
Here.
Tammy Smith-Williams.
Here.
Abby Eilerman.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Now is the time for public comment. The format is everyone is given 3 minutes to address the board. Would anybody like to address the board? Thank you.
Do we have an audit presentation from Julie Graham and Robin Klingler? Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Graham, and I'm a manager with Sheffel Boyle. And over here to my left is Robin Klingler. She was the principal on the audit, and we completed the June 30th, 2025 audit for you. And so I've kind of handed out a few things here. You have a set of financial statements, I think, a bound copy, as well as on your laptop. And then I also handed out a letter that is on our letterhead that we will go over in a little bit. And so first off, I want to say thank you to the staff and the finance department here at Lewis and Clark, Mary, Cindy, Carrie, and the rest of the team. We appreciated all of their support and cooperation and patience as we went through the audit. This is our third year, and so I think every year it kind of goes a little smoother, which is great. I also want to thank Angela for working with us as we needed to test the student financial aid federal program. And so I also want to thank her for all of her help as we worked through that. And so in the bound audit report, there are 5 auditors' reports that I'm going to go through. There are opinions on the financial statements. And so the first one, if you were to turn to page 1, this is our independent auditor's report on your financial statements, the college's financial statements as of June 30th, 2025. And so what this opinion says is that we gave an unmodified or commonly referred to as a clean opinion on the financial statements, and that they are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, also known as GAAP. The next 2 opinions are ICCB opinions, and they are on pages 83 and 91. And so the first one is on the state adult education and family literacy grants. The opinion kind of encompasses a couple things. There's one report where we give a clean opinion on the state adult education financial statements, basically on your revenues and the expenditures that are associated with that program. And also on compliance with ICCB, and that we had no material compliance findings with this grant. The next opinion is on the enrollment data, and that's the one that starts on page 91. It is also an unmodified or a clean opinion, the best we can give, and that is based on our testing of the credit hours that management certifies to the ICCB. The next opinion starts on page 95, and it is our government auditing standards opinion. In short, we call it our GAS opinion, and this is required based on the level of federal and state funding that the college has. And so in this report, we would need to identify if there were any deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting that we consider to be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. And there were none in here. And so if we aren't engaged to report on your internal control, but if we had found items of a certain threshold or a certain magnitude that would need to go in this letter, we kind of categorize them as either small, medium, and large. So the small ones are more like control deficiencies, and we might discuss them with management as we work through the audit. And then the medium ones are significant deficiencies, and then the large ones would be material weaknesses. And those last 2 would be the ones that would go in here, but we did not identify any. And also, we did not report any compliance findings that needed to be reported in this GAS opinion. The last opinion starts on page 97, and it's our uniform guidance opinion. And we refer to this section kind of as our single audit, and it is where we have to come in and test a certain percentage of your federal expenditures. So the college has enough federal expenditures for 6/30/2025. You had about $11.2 million in federal expenditures. And so there's certain requirements and checklists that we have to go to figure out what we need to test. And so there was one program that we tested this year. It was the Student Financial Aid Cluster that I discussed earlier that we worked with Angela on. It is just such a large program for you, the college, and that one had about $7.27 million of expenditures in fiscal year 25, so that is the one we tested. We were able to give an unmodified or a clean opinion on the college's compliance with the direct and material compliance requirements with the grant. There were 4 findings related to this student financial aid cluster, and they were all related to the special test part of the compliance requirements that we need to perform. And so those were all considered other matters type compliance findings. There weren't significant deficiencies or an internal control related to that. And so with compliance, you can kind of feel like it's a little bit nitpicky where you're either compliant or you're not. So maybe something seems kind of minor, but it just basically comes down to, were you compliant or were you not compliant with this grant? And so there were 4 other matters findings, and just in summary, what they relate to would be there was an incorrect parent income on a student aid application. There was a financial advisor did not sign off on a student verification form, using rounding versus truncating on a student's prorated loan, and then there was a student's direct notification letter that was not mailed out by the required 7-day window. And so in summary, those were kind of the 4 things that were included in that part of the report. And so if no one has any questions on that part, I was going to move on to more of your financial statement numbers and those highlights. And so if you wanted to flip to page 5 in the set of financial statements that you have either on screen or in the bound copy, and then also up on the projector there, they will be up there for you to view as well. And so on page 5 is the management's discussion and analysis part of the college's report. And so this is more of a shorter, condensed version of the financial statements to help us go over them at more of a high level. And so that's what we're going to focus on tonight. And so if you look here, we're going to focus on your net position, and as of June 30th, 2025, compared to June 30th, 2024. And then on the far right, you can see there's an increase and decrease column. If you come down a little bit of the page, total assets and deferred outflows of resources were $249.8 million compared to $252.3. So that was an overall decrease of $2.5 million from the prior year. And if you move back up to current assets, you can see that those decreased $1.7 million from the prior year. And that was mainly due to your cash and investments decreased about $1.6 million from the prior year. And that is, mainly due to you're starting using some of your reserves to help pay down debt, and there was no new debt in the current year. So there was just an overall decrease there. If you move down to capital assets, net of depreciation, those decreased $1.3 million, and that was basically where your depreciation expense in the current year exceeded your capital outlay purchases in the current year by $1.3 million. And there'll be another table and a couple more slides where I'll go over your capital asset purchases in a little bit. And so if you move down further, total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources were $109.6 million compared to $125.9 million in the prior year. So an overall decrease of $16.3 million. And I'll jump you back up to the non-current liabilities. You can see that the $12.4 million decrease, that is the majority of the decrease from the prior year. And so there was no new debt issued in the current year. Basically, that is just payoff of already your existing debt, your general obligations, bonds, your debt certificates, things of that nature. And so that was just an overall decrease due to the pay down there. If you go down to the last section, your total net position is $140.2 million compared to $126.4 million, or an overall increase of $13.8 million from 6/30/25 compared to 6/30/24. And so you can kind of think of that as like your net income for the year. That was your overall increase in your net position. And you can see there that net position is kind of broken out between a few categories. And a lot of people might focus on, oh, what's in that restricted fund balance? And so what makes up that is restricted monies for your capital projects, your grants, and your debt service payments. And so again, overall net position increased by 13.8 million, and we'll kind of go over that on the next slide too. So I'm going to have you skip page 6 and jump over to page 7. This is the operating results, for the college for June 30, 2025 compared to June 30, 2024. So you can think of it as your income statement here. So again, we kind of have an increase and decrease column for you to see. We'll start with your operating revenue. Total operating revenue was $7 million at 6/30/25 compared to $7.9 million in the prior year, so a decrease of $0.9 million. And you can see your tuition and fees overall had a decrease of $0.6 million, and that's not because of a decrease in hours. Actually, your unrestricted hours for 2025 were 67,067 hours, and for 2024 they were 64,590 hours. It's your rates have stayed the same for 2025 versus 2024, but what does go in this number is a scholarship allowance calculation that is required by the Illinois Community College Board, and so that is an offset to your revenue. The ICCB wants you to show your revenue net of that scholarship allowance, and so the scholarship allowance increased from the prior year, so that caused a decrease in this line item. And then in other, there was a decrease of $0.4 million, and that was just mainly due to a decrease in insurance claims that were received. There were more received in the prior year compared to the current year. And so then we come down to your operating expenses. Those were $62 million at June 30th, 2025, compared to $59.4 the prior year. So an overall increase of $2.6 million. Right now, I'm not going to go into detail. There's a slide on the next page where I'll go over your operating expenses for you. And so you can see that the overall operating loss was about $55 million compared to $51.5 million. And so this next section here, you can kind of see where your non-operating revenues come into play. And so that's where, you're funded by the government. You have local taxes, property taxes and corporate personal property replacement taxes, as well as funding from the state government and the federal government. And so those first 4 line items there, those total about $65.1 million. So you can see, of your total non-operating revenue of 67.9, 65 of it is from, government-funded entities. And so your total net operating revenue was 67.9 compared to 67.3, so an overall increase of about 0.6 million. And if you come down to the very bottom now, the net position at the end of the year was 140.2 million compared to 126.4. So again, that's that overall increase of 13.8 million that I talked about earlier. And so if you want to move to the next page, that'll be page 8. And so this is where we'll talk about your operating expenses for the year. And this is broken out by program for you. And so we compare 2025 to 2024 again. And so if you look here, instruction, the first line, I'm going to focus on your biggest 3, and instruction being the biggest. It was 16.7 million compared to 16.1 million in the prior year. Pretty consistent, about 27% of your total operating expenses by program. And so this is instruction is for the direct teaching of students. And so of that number, salaries and benefits totaled about 15.3 million. If you want to move down to institutional support, that number was 11.4 million at June 30, 2025, compared to 10.7 million in the prior year. And so again, very consistent at around 18% of your total operating expenses. And of that number, 7.9 million was for salaries and benefits. And items that go into that line include executive management, fiscal operations expenses, your finance, accounting department, and things like that. And then I'm going to bump you back 1 to operation and maintenance of plant. That's your 3rd highest category. 8.9 million for June 30, 2025, compared to 8.5 million in the prior year. Again, about 14% of your total across both years. And so of that number of 8.9 million, 2.1 million was for salaries and benefits. And items that go into this line would be your custodial agreements, your grounds and maintenance, campus security, things like that. And so again, overall, the total operating expenses were 62 million compared to 59.4 million in the prior year, an overall increase of 2.6 million. And so that doesn't seem, it seems pretty reasonable just based on annual raises and inflation and things like that. So, but this gives you a nice little breakout by program of your operating expenses. And then if you want to flip one more page here, it would be page 9. We have a couple of tables here. The first one, your capital assets. So you can see that your total capital assets at June 30, 2025 were 232.1 million compared to 229.5, an overall increase of 2.6 million, which I had alluded to earlier in the presentation. And so just some of the projects that happened in the current year, the capital outlay purchases were, you had a couple air handler units, auditorium seating, there was Haskell Hall fan coil units that needed replaced, a roof on the Ringhausen building, some Trimpe greenhouse renovations, as well as a fire suppression water line. So those were just kind of a handful of the projects that you had going on during fiscal year 2025. And if you move to the bottom of the page, your long-term debt, this is a nice little summary here. Earlier, I alluded to the $12.8 million decrease in your debt. And so you can see here that your general obligation bonds decreased $10.6 million, and then your debt certificates went down $2.3. And so that's just, the paying off of the debt, as there was no new debt issuance in fiscal year 25. And so that was probably the highlights of the numbers. I don't know if anyone has any question this far, or otherwise I can move forward to the other letter that I was going to discuss with you.
Ken, we replaced some boilers last year, didn't we? And they'd be in the operation and maintenance. We spent quite a bit of money on those. It doesn't matter.
There were a lot more items in here. I just tried to pick some of the majority ones. But if you want me to look into something further, I definitely can. You okay? All right. Thanks. Okay. So if there are any more questions on the number, go ahead, Dwight.
I just know the boilers only break on the weekends.
I understand that, and you probably understand that too in your line of business. When it's really cold, exactly. Okay, so then the letter here is on our letterhead, and everyone should have a copy. And so this is a letter called our SAS 114 letter, and it's required communication to those charged with governance, and that is all of you sitting here on the Board of Trustees for the college. And so things that would go in this letter is if there were any disagreements with management, any other type matters or findings, any issues, if we felt pressured by management to do certain things or manipulate numbers, we would need to communicate them in here for you so that you would be aware. And I'm happy to report that there were no issues or pressures or findings or anything like that that we felt needed to be in this letter. One thing that we do put in this letter, and it would be at the bottom of the first page, is any new accounting pronouncements that the college adopted for the fiscal year. And so there are two here, but the first one, the one that I'm going to focus on, is called GASB 101, and it was compensated absences. And so GASB wanted to make a change to compensated absences where before a liability would be recorded on the financial statements for a payout of possible compensated absences. But the GASB wanted to try to find a usage factor. So if there was paid time off, sick, other items like that that were expected to be used, like more likely than not to be taken off, GASB wanted you to quantify that and also record that on your financial statements. And so we did have to do that, and Cindy's here, I think. I want to applaud Cindy. She worked very hard. We had to, as part of this new GASB, you had to restate the prior year beginning. So we had to restate our beginning fund balance, and so we worked really hard to, get those numbers and everything booked on here. And so that was probably the main change as far as new accounting pronouncements go. I don't know if anyone has any questions on anything that I've talked about this far. That was probably all I had to say. I do want to circle back, and I definitely want to say thank you for engaging Shuffle Boyle to perform your audit. This is our 3rd year. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. We have a great working relationship, and so again, I want to say thank you. And I also want to applaud Mary. I'm very sad that this is her last, she finally gets to check off this last audit off her list. I've never worked, I can honestly say I've never worked with someone more caring and passionate about her job and in putting so much time and effort in getting these thick set of financial statements done. And she will truly be missed. And I'd like to give her a round of applause and just say thank you. And I guess if Robin doesn't have anything to add, or Mary, that's probably all I had for you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Do we have an enrollment update from Dr. Sharice Jackson? There she is.
Okay, I don't have on glasses or contacts, so everything is like, I'm just like, my eyes are closed. So just a bit of information. We met today for KD1 core team. So our focus right now is working on retention efforts. So one thing that we noticed when we were doing a deep dive into our current enrollment is that where we lose a lot of our students is from fall to spring. So we want to make sure that we are engaging those students, making sure that they have the resources that they need, and making sure that the courses that they need, of course, we're able to offer. With some of our programs, we've had to cancel entire sections, entire classes. So the welding program being one of them. So as we continue to rebuild that program, we are seeing that that program is down in numbers. And also that some of our other programs are experiencing issues with retention. So that is really our focus right now. We have 2 new student success coaches that they're working very hard, especially with our CBE PACE team, and making sure that those students are supported as well. They actually have access to go into Blackboard, check those students, check their progress, and then they have identified a communication plan to reach out to those students if they are struggling with coursework. So that has helped as well. They're still kind of tweaking exactly when they're going to reach out to them, but we have had some success with students reaching back out, accepting the help, and actually asking for help. So that has helped us. Right now we are trending down in total head count as well as billable credit hours. We are just under about 3% for both. So we still are right now working to get our high school dual credit students registered for classes. We did have an issue with one high school. However, we're working through those issues to make sure that we can get those students registered for the spring semester and to continue to have them enrolled for classes going forward. Right now, one thing, our Nelson campus just as one, and we experienced a bit of a down in enrollment at our Nelson campus. However, we have identified some solutions, for example, the retention efforts and making sure that those students know what resources are available to them, know who to reach out to when they need help, and of course, we want them to reach out sooner rather than later. So, not making excuses, we are continuing to trend forward. However, just want to give some background on why we are seeing some of the decline in enrollment. We are making a push with our PR and marketing team to still allow students to register for our open second 8-week courses. Those actually start on March 23rd. So we are continuing to push and move forward, and we are we're hopeful that we will be up again for spring 2026. I know we're going to do a deep dive into some of the dashboards and look at what exactly from fall to spring in prior years as well. So we are working on that. Our high school registration days, the first one starts on February 26th and the last one ends on March 18th. So we're also getting those high school students here as well.
I have a question. Do we ever do like exit interviews with students when we lose them from fall to spring and find out? I know you mentioned resources and their knowledge and understanding of the resources, but do we ever And it doesn't necessarily have to be face-to-face, but whether it's a survey or some type of just an exit interview, just to find out what it is, why they're not coming back in the spring, so we can figure that out and maybe address it a little differently.
There is a document that they are supposed to fill out when they withdraw from their classes, and the academic advisors do ask them. Sometimes they don't provide a reason, or they just say they want to drop the classes. They also can go in and drop themselves also, so sometimes we just don't get them. The most common reasons, I actually just went in and looked, the most common reasons right now is financial, so not just financial aid, but other barriers outside of the classroom. They have to work to provide for children, child care expenses are going up, things like that, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Jackson, did you see, and you may have touched on that a little bit, did you see between fall and spring of the prior year percent drop versus fall and spring of this year percent drop? Are you seeing a difference in the percentage decline?
So are you asking from fall 2024 to 2025?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So we were actually up during that time. So what we usually are measuring is spring to spring. So based on spring to spring, we're down that almost 3%. But from fall to spring, we're actually trending up because we were up for fall. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it does.
Are you sure?
Not really.
Okay. I like the honesty.
We're down from the fall, correct?
We're up from fall this year, down spring over spring. So spring 25 to
Okay.
spring 26, we're down.
Okay.
Yes.
So essentially, we compare where we were last spring with this spring, which is essentially students that continued from fall. So the issue is students basically finishing their semester in fall, and they should be coming back in spring, and they don't. So that number compared to where we were between last fall, last spring, we're down 3%. So I don't know if that makes more sense, but okay. I mean,
Okay. Didn't mean to confuse you, Gene.
No, that's right. And then the reason for that is,
that's so. I mean, as Dr. Jackson said, there was I think a bit of an anomaly at N.O. Nelson. They were up significantly in fall, and then. And actually, it's funny, I was there visiting early part of the semester and ran into some folks that, some classes were 25, starting, and then they finished with like 8, And so we got to the bottom of some of that, some of those students, to Dr. Jackson's point, just financial. And it's interesting because even if you, just heard with the audit, I mean, when we look at revenue and really that, essentially, we gave out more scholarships, and there's so much more need for students. So a lot of times it's financial, it's stuff comes up in their life, and that's one of the biggest vulnerabilities we have. So I think the retention efforts are going to be the measure of how successful we are there. So if there's
And
a
just to give you an
student
idea, for fall 2025, 16 out of 36 English 131 students failed or withdrew from the class, with only 13 of the students did not return. So that's just one class. So 16 out of 36 failed or withdrew from the class. And that's
and those
just one
were
class.
in one particular area. So it's, I mean, the way to get to what's the issue there is you got to drill in, you've got to talk to those faculty, you do have to talk to those students. I mean, as best that you can. Sometimes they are unresponsive. They will for every class, but that's usually for those students that are in the class. So if students drop out, they might not fill it out, or they drop before the end of the semester. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, we're not the only ones with that struggle. I mean, but we've got to continue to try to get better at that and keep our students, because we work really hard to bring the students here, and we don't want them to, just because they had a bad week or they failed an exam, that they're like, I'm not coming back. And a lot of times that's what it is. So the success coaches, intrusive advising, early intervention. Those are strategies that I think we continue to build on. And, you know, I mean, I'm optimistic. I mean, I think we're moving in the right direction, and Sharice's team is doing great work, and I think we're going to get there.
Going
And
back-
again, fall to fall, we were up.
Going back to scholarships,
Yep.
do we give scholarships out once a year, or fall and spring, or do we get them both, or we just do?
I think we do both. Yeah.
Because I was
Fall and
seeing if there
spring.
was a surge when we give them out, and then,
Yeah,
We do it in fall, but we do split it up between the two
yeah, between
semesters.
fall and spring, yeah.
So following on Jill's question, are we seeing trends in certain classes? Like you gave the example of an English class, so are we tracking any trends where there are certain classes that seem to have a higher, more significant failure or dropout rate?
I know the academic team, and not to put them on the spot, but I know the deans and Dr. Zawinski are looking at that. I know they look over the surveys, and if there are issues identified in certain courses, I know they are addressing that. So.
Okay. And then I do have another question. Discover Day was yesterday?
Yesterday.
Discover Day was yesterday.
How was Discover Day?
Discover Day was actually really good. We received 67 leads. There were 45 students that attended, not including their guests and families. So we are going to reach out to the students that RSVP'd and did not attend to say, you know, thank you, we missed you, sorry we missed you, here's the next steps for enrollment, and then reach out to the students that did come with the next steps for the application. All right.
My son was actually here yesterday. I didn't know he was coming. And, I didn't.
Oh.
And he came, he had the shirt on. He's like, we are L&C. And I was like, how was it? And he was like, it was great. He's like, I had no idea they offered as many things as they do. He met with some different organizations and stuff too. So
That's exciting.
he said it was good. So
He didn't even
just-
name drop you, Brian.
I know. I asked him if he saw you or anybody.
Yeah,
He's like,
I
I
was
don't
like,
know. I just
yeah.
went around and had a good time. I was like, all right.
Should've said
So I didn't
Yeah.
know he was coming.
Yeah.
you're like a
yeah.
secret shopper.
He was, yeah, exactly, secret shopper. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we did well for him then. But yeah, we'll reach out to them and then let them know next steps to enroll for classes. So, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sharice. Our annual Information Security Board report from Ron Wall.
Good evening. So welcome to the first annual Information Security Board report. Yeah, this is the first one. So this board report is required by GLBA, but we also want to take this opportunity to be transparent about the progress with the security program at LC. So we are reporting more than what's actually required by compliance. And there's a 12-page report, but I'm not going to go through every detail. I've just got some highlights that I want to bring to the board. So in 2025, we focused on building a formal cybersecurity foundation. We transitioned from an informal reactive practices to a structured program to meet the federal compliance. The biggest win, this is the one I'm personally very happy about, is that we navigated 2025 with zero high-severity cybersecurity incidents. And we define that as any incident that has a severity of 2 or 3 on a 0 to 3 scale. And in higher education, that is a big win because, unfortunately, higher education is a big target. We're also taking a very proactive stance to this. We've identified 70 risks, new risks to add to our risk register, and we've already remediated 29 of those, and we'll continue to work through those. Section 2 is on our program maturity, which we are using the NIST framework to evaluate our program. And if you look on that page, you'll see that we are trending upward on all of those categories except for one, which I'll get to in just a second. Now, thankfully, our program is currently performing at par or significantly higher than our peers in education. Our biggest strength is the recovery maturity, which is at 94%. That's the one that is just we're maintaining, and that's because it is such a high score on that. What that means is we are very well prepared to restore services in the case of an event. Now, fortunately and unfortunately, this was tested several years ago with the ransomware event. We were able to recover. So hence, that's one reason the score is so high. Although we are not perfect, our govern and detect scores are approximately 42 to 43%. So we have some improvement there, but again, we are on par with the national average for educational sector. Section 3 is our policy and compliance overview. Now, we can't just write policies and then forget them. We have to continually modify and improve them. So in 2025, all of our major security policies were either written or fully updated. And those are 11 policies and plans and strategies, and some of them are quite extensive. Section 4 is the evolving threat landscape. One area where we're seeing tremendous change is the use of AI in any form of attacks, especially in phishing, because it makes it much harder to detect because they can customize it, make it more lifelike. That unfortunately bypasses a lot of the detection systems, including us, people. It makes it much more susceptible to clicking on phishing attempts. Another one is supply chain vulnerabilities, and another one is insider threats. Now, insider threats are a threat actor attempting to get access and get into the institution. A good example of that, and we have had this happen, when we posted the business analyst position, we had a max number of applicants within a very short time. And if I remember correctly, it was within a day. That was hundreds of applications that were all from people that work at Fortune 500 companies, saved them tens of millions of dollars, and they want to leave those high-paying jobs to come to Lewis and Clark. And they all want to work remote. They're all fake applications. They're wanting to get in. If they get in and hired, then they have access to our data. They also make money that they can funnel into foreign actors' operations. So we have to continually adapt our procedures, our policies, and how we react to those. Now, thankfully, despite these growing external pressures, we successfully managed 412 reported phishing attempts and then 7 minor cybersecurity events. Again, thankfully, we did not have any major ones. Section 5 is on our key performance indicators. So our phishing susceptibility rate dropped from 9.7% to 5.87%. We're continuing to work towards 4%, which is the average for a 3-year-old program after being enrolled in Know-Before, and then the training and phishing simulations that provides. And I do want to thank the entire LC team for taking phishing seriously, and I think that's shown in the data here how it is dropping. And a note, later you are voting to approve the purchase to continue Know-Before. That is what provides the phishing simulations and the data and everything for this item. And it is also a requirement for our compliance. Our response speed was roughly 29 minutes to begin responding to a threat once it was identified. Now, we always want that number to be as low as possible, but I am thankful for that number being 29, considering this is primarily a team of 1. We also completed 2 internal risk assessments and also completed a comprehensive third-party vulnerability assessment this year. Those risks that were identified with those have been either mediated or added to our internal risk register. Section 6 is our incident response and resilience. So we have a formal incident response plan. We did use it last year. It was very effective. We've also updated it within the last year. So again, we're going to continually check these policies and procedures and make sure that we're continually improving them. Starting this week, we are going to start our first formal tabletop exercises. So essentially, think of these as role-playing. If a cyber attack happened or any type of incident, we're going to get the entire team together. We're going to talk it through. We're going to say, okay, if this happens, what do you do? Who's responding? Who's doing what? Doing this will help solidify, what our responses are, so that it's in our head and we're ready to go instead of looking up documentation. Also, it'll help identify any areas where we're weak at and continually improve it. Section 7 is our regulatory, legal, and compliance. So the only highlight I have here is we have addressed the issues and concerns that were brought to our attention by Scheffel and Boyle during the last presentation. And those were regarding the GLBA safeguards rule. So all of those things that were brought to our attention have been addressed. Section 8 is our strategic roadmap for the next 12 to 24 months. So our primary focus is going to be increasing those NIST CSF maturity levels. We're going to tighten enforcement of our policies and procedures, again, because we put a lot of effort into creating those policies and procedures, so now we're going to work heavily on implementing those. Very soon, we're going to be launching the IT governance, the IT project governance model. So this goes beyond just cybersecurity, but it will help the cybersecurity team as well, because there's an unlimited amount of projects always coming in. So we want to increase the transparency of what IT is doing, what's the priority, and be able to have a team look at the projects coming in and saying, we are going to do this, we're not going to do this, and then to be able to prioritize and govern those based on our resources. We're also going to work on having ongoing enhancement through our documentation of critical security safeguards. So working very heavily on trying to document the knowledge base of the team. We have a new product actually we're hoping to go live with soon. It's the Canyon GBS. We've mentioned it before, but they have a feature in there to document knowledge bases and institution knowledge. So that may be one area where we're use that product to help this. I want to say a huge thank you to Chris. I mean, he spent countless hours on implementing and working on this program. It would not have been without his help. And it's Chris McLaughlin. He's in the audience here. So that is the highlights of that. I want to open it up to any discussion or questions that you may have.
Ron, you probably said this at the beginning and I missed it. What's the genesis of this report? Who's requiring this and where does it go?
GLBA.
Which is?
It's a Graham-Liam Beliley Act. I mean, I'll get it wrong half the time.
I remember now. No.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, so we just, we have to be able to, and Chris would have to fill me in on exactly which parts are required, but we do have to provide a report of information for you just to acknowledge that, we are complying and paying
So I
attention
assume
to
it's a public
cybersecurity.
document?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And lastly, real quick, I see we didn't have any. I know what one major cybersecurity event would be, but what are examples of that?
Well, obviously ransomware of any level. It could be even just, let's assume a smaller event, a computer that has sensitive information that someone gets into. So it may not be campus-wide, but if they get into, someone from finance or something like that, so any proprietary information there. Information getting out even from maybe a third party, because that's something we're looking at too. If we partner with a third party and we're transmitting sensitive information, we have to address that too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You said people will apply for jobs and try to get hired,
Absolutely.
and then that's a way to get into our system?
Yeah, so a lot of this is government sponsored by people outside the U.S. usually. So they will apply for jobs, and if they have skills, they will do the work, but they are also stealing information and using that information to make more money, and the salary that they earn also helps fund the activities of those.
So they'll actually get hired and
Oh yeah.
do the work and then just get into.
Absolutely. Yeah, and those applications we got, it was pretty eye-opening. Even again, it was hundreds of them, but they were almost cookie-cutter applications. I'm not kidding. Every single one of them had worked for Amazon, and they said how much they've saved them $10 million or however much in there, and they were applying for Lewis and Clark. I mean, so they were all very, very, very similar. So on paper, looked amazing. But like I said, we actually. So one of the ways we filtered that is that we told them, well, you have to be on site for an interview. All of them basically said no at that point, except for one. We did actually schedule an interview, just we want to give a fair chance if somebody is a real applicant, because sometimes it can be hard to tell. We had it scheduled. Of course, they never showed up. No calls or anything. They just never showed up to the interview. Yeah, it's constantly changing, and the methods and tactics they use to attempt to get money information is always changing and pretty extreme. Is anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next is the omnibus agenda is presented for a vote. Is there any item the board would like to be held out and vote separately? If not, I'd take a motion to approve the omnibus agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Larry, thank you. Second by Brian. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Jim? Dwight?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Brian? Tammy?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes. Under action items, the 2026 ICCTA Outstanding Adjunct Faculty Member Award nominee, Jackie Cooper.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jill, thank you. Any second?
Second.
Second by Tammy. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Jim? Dwight? Larry? Jill?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Brian? Tammy?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes. The fiscal year 2027 budget preparations.
Do I have a motion to approve? Motion Brian, second.
Second.
Second Donna. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Jim? Yes. Dwight?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Brian? Tammy?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes. Under action, we have an item to amend the location of the March 10th, 2026 Board of Trustee meeting from the Scott Bibb Center back to the main campus.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Donna, second.
Second.
Second by Jill. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Jim? Yes. Dwight?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Brian? Tammy?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes. Under informational items, Dr. Tresca, is there anything that you want to highlight?
No, I just wanted to ask Dr. Artis to come up and just address D and E specifically, just if there's any questions. I know I sent some information out on the capital project, and then, of course, if there's any questions on progress around deferred maintenance, if you want to.
Yeah, we actually just gave all team an update today on our all team meeting. As I'm sure Dr. Tresca has shared with you, the 5-week CDB review time turned into 2.5 months. So I have sent an inquiry to find out what that means. They've sent new schedules, which I'm assuming you've also, well, it's in the board item for the abatement phase 1 and then for the renovation phase 2. I do have new timelines from the architect. I do want to really just reinforce our architects are killing it. They're meeting all these deadlines. Although it took them 2.5 months to review the architectural drawings, they rejected them, which apparently is very common, but after 2.5 months, they got a rejection notice. I've asked why. That was 2 weeks ago. I still don't have any answer. They gave them 2 weeks to resubmit the drawings and respond to the reviewers' comments. So they are meeting that deadline. They're doing the best they can. They're obviously very frustrated because we're all doing our part to make sure we're meeting deadlines. So just kind of an quick overview. The roofing project, those 3 roofs, Caldwell, Baldwin, and Phobes are going to be substantially done by the end of this week. You'll see we're already working on Reed, which is not part of the renovation, but we're going to be pretty much done with the roofing project. Abatement is out to bid. Well, they've accepted bids on that. The good news there is we're $2 million under budget as what was anticipated for abatement and demolition, which is promising. But we're looking at an April abatement phase start. That's going to be a 4-month process, so April to August. And then what I've been told by CDB is we're looking at an April 6th bid date now for the main complex renovation phase with an October start for construction and a March 2028 substantial completion.
Lori, I thought I heard you say that we don't know why they were rejected, but they have to resubmit drawings? How do
Yes.
they do that if they don't know what was wrong?
Well, I'm assuming it's been shared with the architects, but I use
okay.
that as an
Okay.
example of, and what's interesting is I've read the comments, and the comments are like, you guys are, this is a great job. But it's a very complex project. So the biggest concern I had, and I'm sure Dr. Trask has shared with you, is there's some language from the reviewer that there may still be changes that have to be addressed. And I've asked for clarification on what does that mean? What's that going to do to the timeline? I still don't have a response. So I will continue to press on that. And I will say Ken has been pressing with higher up to get a response on that as well.
Yeah, I've been in contact with TJ Edwards, who's the executive director at Capital Development Board, and she's assured me she's looking into why some of these delays are happening. And as I spoke a little bit earlier with Donna, I mean, one of the agreements that we had early on when I was making, it seems like 1 million trips to Chicago just to sort of build this connection and help us get this moving, is we were asked to make sure we keep our commitments on timeline, and we've exceeded those. So my recent inquiry with TJ was, we're doing our part, and I get it I don't want any delays, but a day or two is much different than 2.5 months, because that pushes the whole timeline further out. And again, have to remind everyone this was an emergency project. I mean, we framed it in a way which was the right way to do it, because it was, and I think maybe we make up a month or two in future review processes, but we'll see.
There's no more reviews.
Yeah,
This is the final.
or they accelerate something, or I don't know. So
At this point, we hope we have a really good contractor.
yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, it's going to
Make
be
up
in
time.
that process. So, it's disappointing. And I'll probably just stop there before I go down a road.
I feel like I've said enough as well. I will just say, Grace Design, who used to be Hastings and Shveta, because we've been in this project so long, they've been acquired. They've been, inquiring, we've been inquiring. It's not like 2.5 months just went by with us just sitting here trying to figure out what was going on. So just not a lot of responses is the challenge.
So a couple of questions. So the design team, Grace Design, have they suggested they're going to be submitting any requests for additional services because of any of these extensions?
There is a modification. I'm trying to think what the modification is that they're requesting. Oh, not related to this. The only modification to the contract that we recently worked with them on was the furniture selection and design. So that was not a part of the original contract.
So you added that scope to their contract?
Yeah.
And then, when you start talking about trying to make up anything in the schedule, are you guys even starting to look at things like long lead items that you could start to procure early?
And that's something.
Or are you going to wait for the contractor to get on
we
board?
can't do anything because it's all the state. But it's a question that we've asked, yes. Yeah, we can't purchase anything as a college. It's all the state.
But you can have a conversation with your
Yes.
architect, and they can make recommendations about how to reduce the schedule. They can make recommendations, so then they're arming you with information to have those conversations with the board, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say thanks, Lori, but I'd say, to your point, based on your experience, if you have particular questions you feel they should be asking, those questions I'll put in front of TJ Edwards tomorrow on a phone call, because if there are things that I mean, that we can say, listen, can you give us the permission to work with the architect? This is what they're saying they can do. We move the needle on some of this. Because we can, I mean, I really want to have this thing done by fall of '27. I mean, it's now pushing into spring of '28. And so if you have thoughts of how do we shave that 3 months off that was just added, exactly. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, though, Donna.
Leadership team reports.
Could I just make one comment, if I could, on the recognition report?
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight, there were several people noted, and typically I like to highlight somebody for the trustees. Several people had three recognitions, Jason Rivera, Dr. Kathy Jones from the psychology, Sarah Rankin, and Mal. Is it good or goody? All were highlighted. I guess more that what struck me when I went through the recognition report, and maybe similar to what some of you had the chance to talk to students today or hear students, was comments like made herself available, huge help, above and beyond. There was one story about somebody staying with a student who was a prospective student who was so confused and not sure where to find their orientation. This instructor got me started on my internship. They care so much. They're so committed. So I think that's just a lens into the fabric and the special faculty we have, and it's a gift to all of our students. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. So just a couple things. I know I sent an email to you all recently, but yesterday a small team of us, I think I saw Randy, maybe Tom was here earlier, Dr. Sue, Mary, a few others we're going to pursue the Manufacturing Training Academy's grant. There's 2 tiers, a $3 million and a $6 million. We're going for both. $6 million is actually for infrastructure and equipment, and we're hoping to frame the application for that tier around the workforce space that we need. The concept there is very similar to what I've shared earlier that went to legislators to redirect some of our ramp dollars. So we're going to sort of build on that concept, and hopefully Tier 2 is funded. Tier 1 is related to supporting current programs. So we want to build off of the work that Paul and Jimmy, Dean Tom, and of course Randy and Dr. Sue have done with avionics and some of our work with P66. So we're really excited. This application's due April 30th. We're hiring Rebecca Ryan, who's associated with Madison County Workforce Development, and was recommended to me by Tony Furman, and we're really excited that she's going to be engaged. We meet with her Friday to begin moving forward, and for her to help us sort of shape the proposal and get kind of all our ducks in a row. So excited about that. I don't know if Abby wanted to say anything, but we had a great trip in DC. Had a chance to meet one of our alum, Carol Kemsky. Many of you remember Carol. She was one of our graduation speakers years ago, so we had a lovely lunch with her and had a chance to engage a little bit on Capitol on the Hill, and also, participate in some of the National Legislative Summit. And again, I know Larry's attended, Donna's attended, now Abby, and it might be something other board members are interested in going forward. It's an opportunity to just be engaged in some of that fun political side of this work and engage with our legislators. One of the real highlights of that, though, was being able to have some communication with the Assistant Secretary of Labor, who I mentioned in my email, Dr. Mack, who spoke at the conference as well about a lot of the things we've been talking about when it comes to credentialing and sort of the model that we've developed around PACE of really providing students the opportunity to navigate curriculum, no pun intended, at their own pace, but kind of moving away from seat time. And one of the issues we always have with that is we run into the financial aid piece. And, there's a short-term Pell legislation that we hope passes, but that's one of the vehicles that will allow folks that are interested in short-term credentials, a certificate or something even shorter than that, to be able to apply financial aid. But more importantly, it will allow us in a much better pace to respond to workforce needs. And so there is some funding that should be announced very soon, more formally, probably close to $120-ish million that will help fund opportunities at a state level for consortiums. And this is something that I'm really proud of because, I mean, I'm chairing it, so Lewis and Clark is at the forefront of this, but myself, Pam at Parkland, Tim Taylor at Shawnee, and Kirk Overstreet at Logan, we were approved by the President Council, basically 45, it was a unanimous vote to allow us to move forward with a concept that we think can change the game in the state, essentially creating a curriculum consortium. So if we wanted to start a program but don't have the expertise or the curriculum, we can dip into this consortium and leverage curriculum from, say, Heartland or Shawnee or Harper College and be able to deliver that service. So we're really excited about that. In March of next month, I mentioned this to the all team, next week our extended leadership team, which I'll send an email to the board to identify who are on the extended executive team, have a president advisory group that meets tomorrow for the first time. And then, of course, our student advisory group, and you met some of those students today. I want you to just know who's on those groups and sort of the purpose of those groups. But one of the purposes of the extended exec team is obviously these are leaders across the campus, and we engage in decision-making, collaboration. And one of the things we're doing next week is we're taking a first look at the culture survey results from last year. We're going to present that to all of you in March. Overall feedback was very positive. You know, we have some opportunities in there, so I sent that group kind of a summary. Brad White, who's amazing on the data side, sort of chopped it up and sort of showed us some trends and opportunities. I want to share that with the board as well. You'll probably get an email from me pretty close to maybe late next week with sort of the summary, some of the discussion we had, and then in March I'll do a more formal presentation to the board as I've done in previous years. But you might remember last few years it's been typically in May, but we gave the survey out a little bit earlier this year and actually had a record number of respondents. I think it was 350 plus team members responded this year, which was huge. So you'll hear more about that in March. And I'm just thinking a couple of quick things. I think that's it. I mean, appreciate your support of John. We're excited, and I think as our auditor said, we're really sad to see Mary go. She's got a little more time yet. She's not off the hook yet, but we're excited to have John on board and get him involved as quickly as possible. And just, yeah, thank you for your support. And just we're continuing to navigate forward. A lot of good things are happening, and just appreciate the board being awesome and supportive because it helps us do the work that we need to do with focus. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tresca. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Don't know what. Or he did, it's on the personnel.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Jill made a motion. Second?
Second.
Abby, take second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Jim? Yes. Dwight?
Yes.
Larry? Yes. Jill?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes.
Motion passed. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you.